Right, we're back. So, considering how this game is going to slow down a bit, I think I should actually go back to the idea of talking about stuff, at least as I play. So, there was something that I mentioned some time ago in one of the earlier episodes, I guess. Ooh. Specifically how alcohol was the sole cause of, was the cause of civilization, and honestly, it's pretty accurate to say that, even if it sounds a bit like a meme. Because it is, in fact, a fairly correct statement. It really is the main reason behind it. Because, well, agriculture, which is the bedrock of a lot of things, kind of sucks. Let's see here. Instead of getting pretty much all the food you need for the day via hunting or gathering for anywhere between 1 hour to 7 hours in a day, it depends on environment and season. Because obviously, generally speaking, it's harder to find. It's really easy to find food during fall, and during winter, it's very difficult. Just as an example. Ooh, okay, let's set that up. It might be good to have access to first. Though probably. Oh, baskets more for. So that will give me one extra money from the Hatter and the Seamstress. Okay. I don't have any of these, so. Wait, no, I don't even have. But yes, agriculture sucks. It's atrocious. I've already said some aspects of it, but to be precise, agriculture, especially early on, is atrocious. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle can sustain you from each day from anywhere between 1 to 7 hours of hunter-gatherer activities. It's strenuous, yes, but we have literally evolved to sustain such a lifestyle. So our tendencies, which are generally speaking high stamina, long distance running. You remember the chaser unit from near the beginning of the game? Yeah, that's pretty much how we operated at the beginning. However, agriculture is rough. Extremely rough on the body. Expecting to have more production, but I guess not. agriculture is atrocious. It's a lot of work that honestly the human body is not built for. Not very well. So there has to be a very good reason for large societies to go, for the vast majority of societies to go through the shift to agriculture. Um, well, well, actually, I didn't even do the full thing of it. Hunter-gatherer lifestyles have a far more diverse diet than early agricultural, because you had, vegetables, grains, fruits, meats, especially, and as omnivores, we kind of need a balanced diet in order to ensure that we can maintain a healthy nutritional situation. I am vaguely annoyed by the fact that the music loves to cut out. The game just becomes fairly silent outside of a few things. City. Okay, make your way back. Yeah, there has to be a good reason. Oh no, there's an elephant, a deer rider? A deer rider. A deer rider. Okay, there. They're both gone. The hunter was able to take them both down. Not, it's the task it was best made for, but then again, it's a dog worker over here. I don't really need those. There's way too many of them over here. But yes. Agriculture, on the other hand, especially early agriculture, honestly, for most of history of agriculture, was almost entirely grains, and maybe some fruits or vegetables in lucky areas where orchards or vegetable farming was easy. The thing is, grains were the easiest thing to farm, by far. Ah, it's nice to get all that XP on the Outbreaker. But yes, yeah, agriculture was atrocious insofar as nutrition is concerned. So there had to be a good reason, right? And the answer was twofold. First things first, agriculture was much more scalable than hunter-gathering. Especially at the very initial days where all people did was plant the crops and then come back and, go off hunter-gathering and come back to find plants have grown that they could, some plants have grown that they could use more easily. In other words, by deliberately using the land in a specific way, there was much more food that could potentially be earned. Or, well, calorie count, I guess, that could be earned from working the land. And through intelligent use of that, you could actually reach a much higher population. So obviously, this was the correct choice, right? Well, the thing is, once you've had this large population, you need to start focusing more on agriculture in order to sustain that more effectively and keep growing. So eventually, there's so many people that there's no chance that you can leave that hunter-gatherer lifestyle without a lot of people dying. And who decides who dies, right? Especially since it's kind of immoral. To just leave a lot of people to die. For obvious reasons. Um, Although, then again, it may not be obvious to anarcho-primitivists. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I guess I can have the city build a library in Nineveh. Sure. I don't have much better to do with the city.
Words have the power to both destroy and heal. When words are both true and kind, they can change our world.
Alright. Previously, the concept of borders didn't exist. I can now effectively open my borders, which grant get more trade routes, and more money from trade routes. Well, more value from trade routes. Doesn't change upkeep either, so that's nice. But yes. That is, in essence, the agricultural trap. Agriculture is an easy way to get a large population, but once the downsides started coming in, you have too large of a population to sustain in any other way. And generally speaking, most people are more enough to not try to make that decision, a decision where a lot of people die. Contrary to a lot of popular belief, everyone is capable of moral reasoning. Everyone. Or, well, most everyone. There might be some people that aren't very good at it. But, well, try not to judge. Okay, get production set up. Ask Academy. For a year. It's funny how it's running the kelp now. This is what a worked fishing boat looks like. And it's handling the kelp, but not the crab. Despite, you know, the difference only being one more commerce. Then again, I have so much food production here that I think the balanced AI thinks that it's not worth it to try. Either way. Set out wolf remains there. But, yes. At the very least, that's the agricultural trap part 1. Now, the other reason why agriculture was such a big deal, and, you know, society streamed to it despite the debuffs involved, negatives involved. I shouldn't call it debuffs. That's a bit too gamey. Where's the bison at? Right here. Oh. Whoops. Okay, let's get that group of bison herd. Bird. Yeah, the other aspect as to why agriculture became so big in human societies is very simple. Agriculture made it easy to produce large quantities of alcohol, usually grain beer. Well, grain alcohol, also generally called beer. And alcohol was a big thing because it was an extremely unusual substance. For a combination of reasons. One, it had strong psychoactive properties. You know, getting drunk, basically. But, and potentially more importantly... Ah, great. The fox got attacked by a chimp. Desert tortoise. Cool. But yes, alcohol not only was a strong psychoactive substance that could be produced by grain, it's also incredibly difficult due to the way how plant biology ended up getting set up to avoid. Well, not plant biology, but perhaps it's better to put it as just biology ended up getting set up. A combination of factors. A lot of anaerobic production from bacteria produces alcohol as a byproduct, a waste product. Sure, there are also further bacteria that can process that and turn it into another form of energy. But I don't think there are many of them. And they don't do the job very well. I thought I could turn you into remains. There's simply no seeds left where I can do this? Not on the mainland. Okay. The other, yeah, it's really hard to avoid alcohol. The existence of alcohol, so it was practically guaranteed that humans would come across it at some point. There really isn't much of a point in trying to imagine how human society would look like if we never ended up discovering alcohol, because it is just way, way too easy to find. To the point where it's a pretty common thing for animals to just bury a fruit. I can't say anything that way, sadly. Need to have a hunter go through there in order to ensure that doesn't happen again with the... Keep some distance, but... It's very difficult to avoid the existence of alcohol. What I mean by this is fruit-based alcohols also something that can occur and in fact is easier to occur than others. Spoiled fruit, outside of, you know, the regular rot effects, have a lot of alcohol in them. And I mean a lot. Just pass the turn. Or you know what? Don't pass. Farm some XP from that. Huh. Yes, fruit alcohol. Like I said, rotten fruit is full of alcohol. At least fruit that rots in a particularly good way, I guess, is perhaps the best way to put it. I sadly don't have a Master Sea Hunter anywhere. I don't think I do anyway. Pretty sure I don't. Yeah. Gonna send you to Honolulu. That's where I build all my hunter units anyway, so... Yeah. For obvious reasons, it's the way to go. Yeah, do you first. That means that it's scarily easy to find alcohol. And also to generate it, if you know how to do it just right. To which I must say, there exists plenty of evidence of animals, random animals in the wild, deliberately burying fruit and then coming back to it later in order to get drunk off of the partially rotten fruit. Yes, this is a thing that happens. Hilarious as it may be. So the idea of humans managing to miss that for a couple 100,000 years, if they didn't already know how to do this, when they first became anatomically modern, is a big stretch. On so many levels. But yes, it is extremely easy to turn alcohol into a... well, to create alcohol from this, well, grains. Far more so than it is to create it from any other source, pretty much. At least comparatively speaking. And the end result is fairly obvious. heal. Pause for a turn. Attack, attack. There. Any new hunters will get extra XP. My hunter do the moving first. Okay, like that. There. Yeah, that still needs a bad boy's enclosure. Wolf enclosure. Oh, they went there. Okay. But yes. And therein lies why. And to a degree, the idea that the history of civilization is inherently attached to the history of alcohol is very much a correct statement. Kind of impossible to avoid. I mean, there is also the fact that alcohol can act as a store of calories, but which made preserving food gain from farming easier than preserving food gain from hunter-gathering, unless you were in a very specific location, like, I don't know, the Arctic, which made preserving meat a lot easier. Take a turn to heal. Cancel, cancel, cancel. I don't need that list of cities. I hit the wrong button, that's all. Can't even reach that. Can't reach this. It's good fun to farm XP for these units. Outrigger is pretty close to another level, which is nice. +4. Tannery. The carpenters. Carpenter will get the same amount of base production As the forge, it's just not very visible because of the minus 10% military unit production. Perhaps better put, not as visible. City has a lot of base production, I must admit, in order to have plus 4 production from plus 15%. Yeesh, that's a long time.
One must acknowledge with cryptography, no amount of violence will ever solve a math problem.
uh... concrete. That's going to be very good to further bolster production. Although I'm not sure if cement is a resource that Oh, whoa! That's a lot of buildings that require cement. Or are boosted by cement. And again, stone, it's probably a lot of things that are stone as well. Why am I sent to here? Okay. I'll go for democracy. It's a good set of new civics. Spectre. I don't recognize the name of that. Well, that name specifically, so. Dunk, and there we go. I can at least set up a wild boar camp over there. Maybe take a chance to send a copy over here in order to set up a carnival. Yeah. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. I guess I can set up a salt gatherer there. I mean... Finally, one of the birds didn't flee. Yes, because I was the first, I got this great spy for being the first one to discover cartography. And yes, just so that everyone knows, that icon is definitely a reference to Assassin's Creed. It's the pinnacle of civilization modding. You expect there to be a lot of references. A lot. Okay. Right, I wanted to build the Library of Neva here, didn't I? An altar. I have no idea how much it costs. Oh no, which thing is it? Please don't be really expensive. That's terrible. There it is. It is expensive, but I'll take it. Plus 2% science in all cities. I don't think I have many science percentages yet, so that's gonna be like an extra 60 science per turn. Oh, that's fine. I'm not moving the units anyway. And don't even get me started on how later societies handled that sort of a thing. The alcohol question. As I said, alcohol ended up being a great store of calories. To a level that's difficult to avoid acknowledging. So a lot of societies ended up basically using alcohol as a way to store excess grain. In addition to the fact that alcohol kills quite a bit of bacteria, because, you know, it's a waste product. Of course it does that. So it was also often used as a source of hydration, without all the potentially difficult details of, you know, contaminated water, or at least the potential of contaminated water. Which, yeah, that is a killer, especially among a lot of environments where things start to get worse pretty quickly. After all, one of the really big problems with a settled lifestyle was that it was very easy to pollute a water source from the garbage that most humans ended up producing, as well as, you know, sewage. The waste processes of our digestion tend to do that. Tend to cause disease in other people and ourselves. For fairly predictable results. So having alcohol, heavily diluted with water, made it so that it barely got you drunk at all, gave you a small amount of calories, and gave you a lot of hydration. Maybe not as much as pure water, because alcohol naturally dries you out of it. But yeah, overall it tends to be fairly beneficial to use. And then there's the fun bit of the fact that because of how easy it was to create and store, it ended up being used a lot as a pseudo-currency. Including as pay for government workers. Because usually states were the ones that were capable of obtaining and maintaining vast quantities of alcohol. And the end result is a bit obvious out of this process. So yes, up to the point where coinage became common, most government workers, including, and well, actually especially soldiers, ended up being paid in drink. And also everyone drank, but usually, most of the time, it was very much watered down stuff that most people don't think much of today. Oh, so subdue chance is 100% now? Hmm. Hmm. Might be hunting side too. Actually, it probably is hunting side too, so it is easier to... towards the south. Okay, you want to use a warthog? I think I have some stuff that way. There, that's a good direction. I highly doubt anyone needs a bird, though. Those are way too common. Hey, a primate over here. Suva. Okay, this portion now has roads. Good roads along the entirety of it. So it should be fairly easy to keep under control, I guess. It's just a pheasant, I'm not... Yeah, it's not actually interesting. Red panda! I think it's safe enough to send you to automate hunt. Yeah, it probably is. Actually, I kind of want you over here so you can keep an eye on things in order to minimize the chance the barbarians end up spawning. And a bear spawn there. Okay, go back a tile. I do need to eventually set up settlers, but I need to be careful about gold quantity. I'm having very real issues, although the increased number of trade routes that every city has is helping. Sort of. Well, it's boosting science output, that's the important bit. Because trade routes produce commerce, not gold production. Gold production, direct, unchangeable gold production is only produced by buildings. With fairly obvious side effects to this specific detail. There's no utility for a capybara on here. Oh. Does anyone have need of snakes? No. But Uxum could very well use some of that. Kangaroo herd? I think my gold income should recover soon. I'm at the point where, yeah, it's gonna take more than 1,000 turns for me to run out now, so I don't need to worry about it as much. And I'm still building plenty of buildings that could provide me with the needed materials. So I'm altogether not worried. Automate hunt. It should be fine. I think you're gonna be safe. Mines tend to be more useful than quarries. For a multitude of reasons. Auto hunt. There. So long as I don't run into any barbs, those should be safe. And thanks to my spread, this is pretty much the only area where a barb can appear. On the northern part of the continent. For the southern part, yeah. Barbs can only spawn in areas that are invisible. That are in the fog of war of every civ. So that was dangerous, but it was well rewarded. That should help speed up the game, automating the hunters. Of course it does make the sound like that. Because I have fast movement and fast combat on. Yeah. Just some silliness over there. It can be safely ignored. That bit might get noisy. Oh no, what got destroyed? An ironsmith in the city, okay. Well, let's get it back. Let me adjust things. I'm already much closer to finishing the tinsmith, so. silk. I don't think I actually have access to silk. So that is going to be very helpful for my economy. Drat.
Pouring concrete on land you don't own is called a calculated risk. If you don't pour, you'll lose millions.
You know what? Yeah, okay. So if you set up a new city, I'm sure it will be fine. The Belly Bowman is a bit more expensive and has slightly more, but it's not good for city defense. That's not what it's for. To act as a ranged unit that can move. Simply does not reload fast enough to actually be all that effective. Crime could be better. Right, fine. Let's see here. Watchtower should get me a bit more crime reduction, even if not much. Same with the oil lamps. They're a bit better than torches. Okay, that should be good for the city for now. Still 100% chance to subdue the animal. Oh, hit and run. That's going to make it a lot easier for it to move around. Oh, there's a barbarian outrigger here. Okay. You down there? No. Okay. Yeah. Don't really need to worry about birds. Parrots there, so I'm gonna build a hunting preserve there eventually. Just want to do some road building first, or make travel to and from that location easier. Still need a dancing bear in that tile, so Goat herd. Speed. Wow, okay. Giving it better movement is... Heh. Yes. I like the idea of that. Okay, what next? Most cultured. Yeah, by a long shot. Build a rat-out herd or molar remains. You know what? Yeah, remains. Remains are just reliably the best option out of all of them. Where's that barbarian outrigger that I saw? It's to the north if I remember correctly, so that's where I'm heading. Silk farm. Now, where to plot the city? I think it might be best to head down here. Ah, no, there's an axeman there. Oh, even worse, it's right where I want to place the city. I think to save on time, I'm just gonna say that the unit's probably, the settler's probably safe within my borders. No. Okay, send you over there, I won't need to deal with that. That probably should be fine, just sending an archer to there. Bit of unexplored terrain.
Everything is worth what its purchaser will pay for it.
Let's move to a better currency. Actual coinage. Coinage itself has an interesting history, but that's What? Random event Coral Reef. And destroyed my galley. Why? That's from crossing the river, so... The safest thing to do is to just walk away, I guess. To cross the river there and then attack. That way there's no river crossing penalty, which is as high as a full fortification buff. That's exactly why. Avoiding that as much as I can. So dealing with that is... Right. Keep building up your production. Once I'm finished with all the production buildings, then we can start messing around with other things that need to be done. There we go. Having that sitting around would have been a bit dangerous. It's easier to get the canine enclosure than the others, so... Okay, hunting dog trainer, I guess. The culture would have been nice, but the food's more important. I'm already sending someone down for the... Yeah, the cobra. Moa remains. Those will end up becoming more valuable than the rat-hide herd, especially since the rat-hide herd is a bit easier to obtain. Llama herd! I now have llamas. Cower in fear. Not sure what it went off to. Perhaps just never. Yeah, after this turn I'll stop, so. Quilt maker, mask carver, piercer, auto house, bead worker, tattooer, fresco mural. And a healer's hut. There, that should be good for the city. At least for a while, we won't need any more than that. Oh! That's right, with coinage I can now hurry things for money. It's usually not a good idea, though. At least not for now. I have money, but I'm gonna lose that positive fairly soon, so... Better that I not even try. Okay, yeah. If I do any more of these, it's gonna auto-end the turn, so... Finances are getting back in check. More tech research. I've started automating the hunters in order to try to get the game to go by faster. Admittedly, there are very real limits of what I can do. But now I've got a proper coinage system, so that's neat. Now I'm working my way towards democracy. And then I guess I'll go for meritocracy. I'm a bit leery on doing literature because it removes the effect of the locale cave. Actually, that's a decision I can come to later. Maybe I can do city planning and then, yeah. National carrier system would be nice. Yeah, I think I'll go for canal systems next. Okay. Then diplomacy. Currently in the process of building the library of Nineveh and Saipan. This should get me tablet makers in every city, which will help my money issues. So how much does a tablet maker get me? It's going to be near the bottom of the list. This is sorted alphabetically. Here it is. A little bit of money. Once I have paper, it's just going to give me culture. But the tiny amount of education is going to help a little bit, because education means more science, as well as more production, and more birth rate as well. Mostly science, but yeah. As well as, when it's high enough, a free specialist, which is neat. Like, this doctor right here is a free specialist. I also have 2 citizens that aren't, well, okay, yeah, 2 citizen free specialists, which is weird. I would have preferred if it picked just about anything else, like maybe a scientist. Do we not have engineers? No? Okay. Oh, I already have an engineer. Looks like we might get a great engineer. But yeah. With that, that means it's open season on settling new cities, which I'm in the process of doing, as you just saw the settler. They're heading over here. That should make the passage between these 3 cities much, much safer. And then I'll send a settler down here, either on the target or rather on the other side of it. Plenty of room to put another settler here. And then I probably should finish up settling along the coastline over here. Sadly, there is not very much fresh water, but there are buildings that can provide me fresh water. Not river access, though. So these cities are probably not going to do quite as well. But there are plenty of resources to help out with building up the city. So I also want to eventually settle a city over here in order to fill out this continent too. And then there are plenty of undiscovered areas, well, not undiscovered, but unsettled areas that only I can, for the moment, reach. I'm also going to need to eventually build a city here, right on the spot, so that I also have access to these towers over here eventually. It will also help keep Constantinople contained. Which currently isn't a problem, but it might be in the future. But yeah, that's enough for me for now. I'll see you again next time. Until then, bye.